countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I am Andy, host of The Last Comic Shop and defender of comic books everywhere. This is Chad and J.A., my fearless friends. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic omnibus and said, "Hey, hey, it is now time for more Last Comic Shop podcast!"
Nice.
Cue the theme music.
It is Masters of the Universe this week. I could not be more happy. My goodness, I have been looking forward to a Masters of the Universe episode probably since this show started way back in 2021. So, host with the most, Andy Larson here. Everybody should know I'm the biggest Masters of the Universe fan out there. But I've got J.A. Scott and Chad Smith, who also enjoyed Masters of the Universe as kids growing up. Real quickly, guys, before we get too far into it, favorite action figure from the line. Who do you got, J.A.?
Oh, I don't know. I like Moss Man.
Oh, he was great.
I liked, was it Skunkor?
Stinkor,
who was cooked in patchouli oil, so he had that smell about him. What does he smell like these days? Does he still stink, or has that gone away?
He is still stinky.
Right. They baked the patchouli oil into the plastic, so you ain't getting that smell out. It was part of the secret sauce. Well, then, Chad, we've got Mossman and Stinkor, both from Series 4. What do you say, sir?
Okay, so it's hard to argue with the heavy hitters, right? Like Wave 1, Wave 2, those are all great. My underserved guy, a Cyclone. I love guys that would just twist around.
He's got that weird chest thing. It looks like a radar thing, but it also has like space. He was all over the map. Good design. And I like him more than the character because they would always put out a heroic warrior and an evil warrior at the same time. And his partner was Spikor. And Spikor's okay, but I never understood the arm thing with like the trident. Like that looked just dumb. Like I didn't get it. Everybody should know that my favorite is Triclops. He's always been my favorite. But a lesser known one that people might not think of is Extendar from Wave 6.
Oh, the knight.
Yes! I thought it was perfect for, a high fantasy action figure line that we didn't have like a true knight, somebody in full armor. He was also cyborg, and it was pretty cool. And he was partnered with Dragster, who I also loved because he had the wheel in the middle of his chest. That was cool. Like they were like the characters that came out at the same time.
Who was the guy that had the big like snake arms? That was like they weren't your traditional arms.
Squeeze.
Oh my goodness.
SSSSQUEEZE. Oh, we could talk about this forever.
I whipped that guy around like nobody's business. Look out! He's just flying around the room. It was so fun and so dangerous.
We could talk about Masters of the Universe and the action figures forever, but we are a comic book podcast, and we actually have a comic book to get to before we get to the Masters of the Universe movie review, which is later on in this show. It is the first 3 issues of the limited series that was put out by DC Comic Books way back in the early 80s. I had the guys read these issues. It was either this or have him read some of the original mini comics.
And why didn't we do that?
Because I thought that was something that you would have already read. I wanted you to read something that you hadn't read. And you can find these particular issues in your comic book shops at a ridiculously high price because that first issue with Masters of the Universe that goes for, gosh, I've seen it go for close to $100 at times, especially slabs. But issue 2 and 3, they're no slouches either. I had those issues growing up, and so I still have my issues. I also got new copies, but you can also get it in the Masters of the Universe omnibus that DC Comic Books put out not too long ago with all of like the more recent series that they put out in the 2010s. But these are 3 issues. Chad's going to let us know who worked on these particular 3 issues of Masters of the Universe.
So, written by Paul Kupperberg with art by George Tesca. But we had Alfredo Alcala on inks in issues 1 and 2, and Rodan Rodriguez as the inker on issue number 3. And Ben Oda on letters, and Anthony Tolan on colors for this 3-issue arc that it goes through lots of changes throughout the course of all 3 issues.
And that's why I'm going to have J.A. Scott do the 10-cent synopsis of these particular stories, because after he does that, I am going to lay some history on you in regards to this series, because my fellas and all the text messages were like, none of this makes sense. None of these stories. What is all this?
Yeah, it's like coming to Masters of the Universe if all you know is the Dolph Lundgren movie. I don't know. I was so Skeletor captures the sorceress, who is not Teela but dressed like Teela, and then employs He-Man to go steal part of the Power Sword so that he'll release the sorceress. And so He-Man goes on a mission to get the part of the Power Sword and becomes He-Man by magic, not by hosting the Power Sword aloft and having the power. And then Metron shows up and is like, no, I'll help you out. And there's this weird...
It's not Metron. I know he looks like Metron, but it's not Metron. It's Zodak.
And then there's this weird, grumpy sorcerer guy who has the Power Sword, and they fight over it, and Skeletor gets the Power Sword, but then the Hawks show up from the Lord of the Rings, and they steal the Power Sword back out of Skeletor's hand.
And that was the sorceress's plan all along.
Right. And
To have Skeletor plan
Teela is
to
a
get
bombshell that kind of looks like Barbarella. Did I get it right?
That is true. My goodness. That first issue of this Masters of the Universe has a very unique design of Teela. Not only is she blonde, unlike the redhead that you would get in all the other media, but she wears like a metal bikini. She kind of looks more like Red Sonja, to be honest. And this look was so popular that when the Masters of the Universe Classics line came out and we were all spending all this money, they made a figure. They called her like Barbarian Teela or whatever, and it was so popular that you had to the line was like around the block to get this figure, and I have one, and it's really, really great. I'm not surprised that my co-host had a lot of questions about this particular, so I'm going to lay it on you.
Well, before you do, I want to stress, as a kid, I loved He-Man. My dad would put me to sleep by reading those He-Man mini comics that came packed in with the action figures, but it's been 35 years or so, and so I had never read this 3-issue miniseries. I was so confused about how Teela is the sorceress but not the sorceress, how He-Man has a power vest in the 3rd issue that has concussive blasts that shoot out of it, and then did Damon ever show up again? He was kind of like Gargamel but meaner. It seemed real important.
And I forget, in the mini comics, does Man-at-Arms have a mustache, or is that just the animated series?
That was in the animated series. There's a lot of things that Filmation changed specifically for the animated series that has now become like Masters of the Universe canon. One of the things was they thought that Man-at-Arms needed to look more fatherly. And so putting a mustache on him made him more of a dad. And so that was their thought. They were like, let's make this guy...
I don't know about a dad. It makes him more Magnum P.I., which is cool.
It is true. It is true. And I agree that now Man-at-Arms without the mustache, I don't know, he just kind of looks like he shaved the day before, and it just doesn't look right. You're right, Chad, that there's a lot of stuff that we're very used to in Masters of the Universe that didn't really exist at this time. So let's go into that time machine. Let's take a spin back to those early days of the Masters of the Universe line, and let's talk about some of the things that were going on time that this series was released. So again, at this point, you only really had wave 1 of the Masters of the Universe figures. So you only had He-Man, Teela, Man-at-Arms, Stratos, and then you had the Evil Warriors being Skeletor, Beastman, Merman, and Zodak, who they counted, but he really wasn't an Evil Warrior. So at the time, they didn't really have a lot of characters to play with. So one of the things was they had to double dip with the only female action figure they had, which was Teela. And so they made 2 separate characters out of her originally. They had Teela, and then they had the Goddess, which eventually they changed into the Sorceress. But that's because you could put armor on the Teela figure and she looked different. So so you could buy 2 figures.
So Tila was the warrior goddess. Yes. It was the sorceress who just turns into a falcon, by the way, by issue 3.
Right. And they did start the wave 2 figures, because you get Manny Faces shows up, and you get Zoar the Falcon, both of which didn't come out until the second wave. But they're starting to tease those characters, so they needed to flesh out this universe.
But then he did give Tila a little too much flesh in the first issue, so they had to tone that back.
I think it was because they had another character that looked exactly like her. And so it's the same idea for why eventually Filmation made her look like a bird. Because they were like, no, we can't do this. Like, we can't have 2 characters that look exactly the same.
You mean the sorceress?
Wasn't she like a clone? Wasn't she Tila like a clone of the sorceress?
Yes.
Something? Skeletor was going to marry in time.
That's part of the mini comics. All of this stuff was part of the soup at this time. And so Paul Kupperberg actually did a lot of the fleshing out here. He was the first one that said He-Man was actually an alter ego of somebody else. They introduced Prince Adam, and that he went into a magic cave at this point to turn into He-Man.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I forgot the whole fucking Battle Cat talks. Does he talk in the mini comics or the cartoon? No, right?
He talks in the cartoon, and this was the first time that appears too, is you get a talking tiger. Again, going on along with Shazam. This was all going based off of Shazam. Like the fact you had Billy Batson turning into somebody else, you had a talking tiger and talking Donnie. Like these are all Shazam things.
What about Gwildor? Why the heck did that happen? Explain to me, Gwildor.
They didn't have the special effects to do Orko. That's why Gwildor came along. That's a different thing. But at this time, Castle Grayskull still wasn't the good guy base. He-Man's primary weapon wasn't a sword. It was a battle axe, because he did come with the battle axe, if you remember the original toy.
And a sword.
Skeletor also had one, and you put them together.
And it was
yeah. It is. And you had to unlock Castle Grayskull by using the sword. That's in a lot of the early stuff. There was a lock on the front of the toy where you stuck the sword in.
If you didn't have the swords, how else could you unlock Castle Grayskull? Could you use a butter knife?
To the side.
Surely you could use a butter knife.
There's no magic butter knives.
A professional lockpick set. But really, if you didn't have those swords, you were hosed.
I do remember the swords. Which one had the outer, which one had the innie?
The purple one was the innie. The He-Man sword was the outie. That was the way it worked. Here's another interesting tidbit of information. It was Filmation that gave He-Man the power sword and said that should be his primary weapon, because they thought that no kid would care about a battle axe. Everybody knew magic swords. Nobody knew magic battle axes. Like, nobody did that. And so they gave him the sword, and that's how he turns into He-Man. And
Mattel's the one who put the little handle on the sword, right? The little bit next to the grip.
That was always there.
But it's not in the cartoon. That always bugged me. I was like, where is that little extra handle bit?
But I will say George Tuska, when drawing these comics, put all of the little latches and things from the toys into the drawings. Like, that was my favorite part.
This art is really, really good. Alfredo Alcala is like the godfather of Masters of the Universe. He was the guy that actually drew the first 4 mini comics, the ones that are primarily like a big picture and then prose at the bottom, which are super cool. I really love those stories. And if you really want to read some more stuff, that's a collection by Dark Horse. But George Tuska does a really good job here. And I remember getting issue 3 especially, where you get to see the inside of Castle Grayskull. And I remember being a kid, just a couple panels of like Tila walking through like this gigantic maze and Stratos falling into this gigantic net, this spider web, and just being like, this is creepy as fuck. This is not your kids.
Foul-mouthed kid.
This is not your kid's Castle Grayskull. To Jay's point, it is more Conan the Barbarian. It is more classic swords and sorcery than you would get eventually later on after Filmation got its hands on it. They did have to kind of kidify it a little bit and make it more kid-friendly. So you get a little bit more mysticism. You don't understand where Skeletor comes from. He claims he's from some alternate dimension at this point. I like the fact that, like, In one of the issues, there's just a bunch of Beastmen. They're all the same dude, but they're like, there's all these Beastmans. And I guess it's like, you could just buy all these figures and make army builders out of them. Shrugs.
There was one merman, but then there was a bunch of his like mermen men that looked exactly like him. I guess that's what were they going for? Let's turn these guys into army builders? Because there isn't really an army builder in the He-Man toy universe, is there?
No, there wasn't until way, way later. Not until they introduced the Evil Horde and they gave you the Horde Trooper. That was the first army builder, but that wasn't until like 5 or 6 years into the toy line that you finally got an army builder figure. So yeah, you're right. They did try to say like, yeah, you can take all these figures and just buy bunches of them. Buy 2 Teelas, make them 2 different characters. Buy a bunch of Beastman and make an army out of them and let He-Man just run around with Battle Cat. I love these stories just simply because there's a charm, these books for me, not only from the nostalgia sake, but like, I kind of like He-Man when it's a little more dark. Not to say that it should get totally away from the kid-friendly aspects of He-Man, but I kind of like it when it's more a little high fantasy.
And by high
Tim
fantasy,
Seeley's-
you mean puff puff high fantasy.
No. But that's what I love about the new stuff written by Tim Seeley. It's because Tim Seeley is able to pull in all these different aspects of the Masters universe.
Because this was puff high fantasy. This was whack out, man.
This is go get some magic talismans. We don't have an Orko, so we'll give you some other weird wizard at the beginning. We don't have another bad guy like Hordak, so we'll give you this Damon character that nobody cares about.
Zodak always have the Metron chair.
Yes!
He did, yeah. He never made sense.
He did.
He was one of those
Metron.
guys that had the same color for his gloves as the rest of his skin. I didn't like that.
Zodak's a weird bird. He was always called the Cosmic Enforcer, and initially he was supposed to be a bounty hunter. But then they somehow changed that from bounty hunter into he's the guy that keeps cosmic balance, and he's neither a good or bad guy, which I think is about the time when everybody like lost interest in what Zodak was. They were like, nobody cares about a guy who rides around in a chair. They should have made him just a badass.
Was he a peg warmer?
He was. He was the peg warmer from Wave 1. Should have been more like the Boba Fett because he kind of has a cool look. I won't lie, that helmet kind of looks cool. The vest kind of looks cool. The fact that he comes with a gun, he's the only one out of the original series that comes with a laser gun. That's pretty cool. Making him the guy that sits in a chair, stupid as hell.
Yeah.
But
I remember that vest. They put that vest, they would recolor things and sell you the accessory packs. And that vest
They
was
make a
in the
black
accessory
vest?
packs.
right, yeah, they gave you a black one, yeah, because they just recolored it. But speaking of vests, before we get to ratings, to answer your one question, Chad, the reason why He-Man has this vest is because that was, again, another part of the mythology of He-Man that they eventually got rid of. It was supposed to be that He-Man was originally just some sort of jungle barbarian that went into a cave, and the sorceress was like, here, take this axe, take this shield, take this power vest, which was from the olden days when we used to have high technology on this planet that will allow you to create force fields. Ooh. So sometimes He-Man didn't wear it. Like you were actually supposed to take the vest off of He-Man, and like He-Man would just run around just bare-chested fighting with axe. I know, right? Kind of great, but when you put the vest on him, then he could be force field guy. Woo! So I'm glad
How
they
does
got
that
rid of that.
explain the battle damage armor where you had to spin the thing in his chest for the first strike and the second strike, and he keeps getting more messed up before you spin, but then after you spin so much, you're like, nah, he's fine. Goes back to normal.
That's just because they needed to make more figures. But I like these issues, but we're going to get to ratings because I want to hear how all of this talk and maybe some of the explanation kind of helps my co-hosts come up with a rating for this particular thing. And that starts by getting a rating scale from J.A. Scott. So, J.A., what do we got this week?
1 out of 4 power swords.
There you go.
Are you going to get the one with the lights? Are you going to get the one that holds the drinks? Or are you going to get
The one that holds the drinks. How much is the popcorn bucket one? Whatever they're selling now to get you to part with your $100, you geek.
Your Castle Grayskull popcorn bucket. Oh, Lordy. Well, we're going to start off with Chad. I think Chad, of all the folks, when I thought he might enjoy this the most, just simply because he is quite fond of the Masters of the Universe action figure line. So what did you think?
Yeah, as a kid, I loved He-Man so much. And it was those mini comics, it was the action figures, it was the cartoon, it was run around in the backyard, pretending I had the power sword, and really it was just a stick that gave me the power. All that stuff was tons of fun. Here, this was not like, this threw me for a loop because I was used to something a little bit more put together. Like, you could see the changes on the fly where between issues 1 and issue 2, they're like, no, Tila doesn't look like that. She's going to look like this. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. It just seemed like there were things constantly changing and characters coming in. And like, I had to Google it. I was like, oh, where does Damon come into play after this? Was he ever a thing? And like, he's like in like one episode, maybe. And just totally unimportant, but like, you only had 3 issues. You're throwing Damon in there. Like, what? So this confused and perplexed and intrigued me. I'm excited of the things that came out of it, but as it stands, like, I just turned to it like a random page of the first issue, and some of the dialogue in here is, by the dark gods, what manner of sorcery is this? My very chamber reverberates with power unimagined, and what a good creature who I last saw slumbering within. Goddess, demons, and monstrosities from hell attack me. What? What the heck? Like, it's chaos. None of it makes a lick of sense. It's still real fun, though. I don't know. I'm very torn. It was tough to read, but it was also exciting. So I'm going to give it 3 power swords just because I want to have a lot of power swords at my disposal if I need them. But I don't want people to think this is good because I don't think it was good. But it was fun and neat. And yeah, that. Good luck.
All right. Yeah, J.A.?
Yeah, I don't want to say that it's the comic book equivalent of the Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe movie, but it kind of is the comic book equivalent of the Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe movie.
There's no Gwildor here.
Yeah, there's no Casio keyboards that have to play special melodies.
There's a lot of other weird stuff that makes no sense, and if all you know is Masters of the Universe from the Filmation days and the animation, then this is not it. If all you know is Masters of the Universe from the newer comic books, this is not it. As Chad said, you can see they're sort of building the mythos as they write it and changing things from issue to issue. I wonder if DC thought that, hey, this will be our Conan, because it does have a lot of the Conan feel, until maybe Mattel stepped in and said, no, you guys need to be a bit more hewing to the mythology that we're building in the toy line and in the animation, because the animation was out at this time too, correct?
It was coming. They're
in production, and you had the mini comics, obviously. So I think that's where the unevenness of it is. And the first 2 issues with Alfredo Alcala are just beautiful. The art is beautiful. The third one, I think, suffers a little bit because you don't have Alcala doing the inking duties, but imagination-wise, it's incredible. It's a frustrating read because you don't know what's going on. If you're coming in having no He-Man knowledge at all, I think it's still frustrating. If you're coming in with a little bit of He-Man knowledge, turn that up to 11. If you've got all the He-Man knowledge, I think it's one of those, what is that, Dunning-Kruger effect things, right? Where you go up and you come down and you go back up again. Don't want to say it's quite a 3, but I know Andrew loves it so much that I will feel bad if I don't give it a 3. Not so much for the book itself. I don't want to hurt his feelings, because He-Man was such a quintessential part of his childhood. And this book also had a big fundamental effect on him. So I think if you're a big Masters of the Universe fan, if you love He-Man, it's a must-read. Even if you like He-Man, if you like Conan, it's a read just for the high fantasy aspects of it that they got away from in the mini comics and especially in the Filmation series. So yeah, 3 power swords for me. I would probably give it a 2.5, but that extra 0.5 is just pure love of my co-host and cousin, Andrew.
There you go. Well, I have to agree with you, gents. This is not the best He-Man in comics, right? In retrospect, maybe should I have had you read these 8 comic books that make up Wave 2 of the Masters of the Universe mini comics? Those are the best. They're written by Gary Cohen. They have Mark Teixeira on art. That's where you get like the Triclops issue and the Trapjaw issue. That I made the guys read The Tale of Tila, which is all about the magical separation of the sorceress and Tila into 2 different. Skeletor makes a clone baby out of the sorceress to marry eventually. Creepy shit. Creepy shit. So this isn't that. That is the 4. If there was going to be a Masters of the Universe from the early days you should read, that's in the Dark Horse collection. Read the first 2 waves of the mini comics. Those are the best of Masters of the Universe at this time. This is okay. This is a 3 Power Swords. Still think the art in these particular stories is like really, really great Masters of the Universe art. George Tuska does a great job. Alfredo Alcala. He's on the Mount Rushmore of folks that do art for Masters of the Universe. And so many iconic images in this. Later on, there's a sequence in issue 3 that Filmation basically took to make the demo cartoon for Masters of the Universe. There's a scene where like Tila throws a spear across the trapdoor pit and He-Man grabs it and like swings out of the way. Filmation took that scene from the comic book, basically shot for shot, and animated it and put it into the demo for the Masters of the Universe cartoon before it was released to get people excited for that particular property. So it again, some great stuff in here. So if you're a fan of Masters of the Universe, you should read it. You should already have the omnibus, in my opinion, if you're a real fan of Masters of the Universe. But even if you're not, even if you're going to see this movie, it's neat to see where all the ideas came from. It really is. So you should check it out just from a historical perspective. And it's much better than the Star comic books that Marvel eventually came out with in the mid-'80s. That's kind of fluff. There's a little bit of dark substance with some of the high fantasy.
I like the fluff.
Yeah.
So who owns the license to Masters of the Universe now?
Right now, it's Dark Horse. They're still putting out a lot of really great books. They're putting out an ongoing series that you can check out, as I mentioned, by Tim Seeley. You can also get, all the mini comic books in their omnibus collection. You can also get the newspaper strips in their omnibus collection. These issues, again, you have to find the DC omnibus, which...
That's interesting. Dark Horse doesn't have the rights to these? Because, for example, whenever Conan jumps license properties, like Titan has them now, they have the rights to all the stuff that Marvel put out, as long as...
it depends on the contracts you sign.
Okay.
Right. But these are DC issues, and so you can't get these. Obviously, you can't get the He-Man versus Superman issue in DC Presents, the original one. You can't get any of that stuff. The Masters of the Universe versus Justice League that they put out when, again, DC had the license, and they were putting out all their books. All those things are in the omnibus, though, and it's starting to become pricey, as we've mentioned before. That omnibus is starting to become harder to find on the secondary market because it was only put out by DC, and they don't have the rights right now, so you can't get it in reprints. In any case, one thing that you can get in either reprints or other comic books is recommendations, and we've got that coming up right after this commercial break. So stay tuned for recommendations, as well as the Masters of the Universe movie review later on in this show.
Looking to save money on your collectible supplies? Whether it's comics, cards, sports memorabilia, or miscellaneous pop culture bric-a-brac, make sure to use promo code LCSPOD to get 10% off your orders at bcwsupplies.com. Not only does it get you a discount on BCW's already low prices, but using LCSPOD at checkout is an amazing way to show support to the Last Comic Shop podcast, the most incredible comic book podcast on the airwaves. So if you are in need of collectible supplies, head out to bcwsupplies.com and use promo code LCSPOD today. That's promo code LCSPOD. Cheers!
Hello, friends. Do you like the 80s and Transformers? We are the Autopod Decepticast, and we started our podcast doing a minute-by-minute breakdown of the 1986 classic animated feature, Transformers the Movie. We've since moved on to an episode-by-episode review of the G1 series and just started Season 3. We have over 180 episodes, so if you're just discovering our show, there's plenty of gold to stuff into your ears, and it is very funny and fantastic. I'm not biased. We are on every podcast aggregator you could possibly stomach: Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and our web presence is autopoddecepticast.com. We are at APodDcast on Twitter and all of the things. Autopod Decepticast, friends, for all your animated Transformer needs.
All right, we're back with more Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for recommendations. Yes, that time of every single show where we wait for a movie review. Because, again, we like to tease you with the Masters of the Universe movie review that'll be coming out in just a few seconds, but we're going to talk about some more comic books. So in addition to getting the first 3 issues of the Masters of the Universe limited series, which you can either find in single issues, which are pretty damn pricey, or you can get them in the omnibus the DC Comic Books put out, which is not as pricey, but still probably. Any case, these are other comic books that you should pick up at your local comic book shop today. We're going to go ahead and start off with Chad Smith. Chad, what do you got for us this week?
So I spend a lot of time getting comics and stacking them up and waiting to read things. And so after watching this movie, I just want to go back and watch Community instead. I want to go see if Community holds up. I miss Allison Brie. And so I remember I loved that show whenever it came out, and all the Donald Glover and Abed. And so that's going to be my recommendation, is find out where Community is. What streamer is that on? Did Yahoo just keep it?
No,
after the last one?
I think you can watch it on Hulu. I think it's a part of like the Hulu package or whatever. Isn't there an episode all about G.I. Joe? Isn't that like it's like an animated episode, right?
Yeah. I forgot about that one.
You see, look at that. Now you really have to go back and watch that because there's a tie-in. I think Jeff Winger's character is the wingman in that, and like
see, your memory is way better of Community. I watched them all, even into the Yahoo season.
Hulu and Netflix. You can get it in the U.S. on Hulu and Netflix.
Oh, nice. Well, there you go. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stack some more comic books up in the meantime, but I'm going to do a quick Community rewatch.
Oh, all right. Well, I actually have a comic book recommendation this week, and it is kind of remotely tied to movies and like doing comic book adaptations of movies. This particular one is called The Nobody. It was written by Jeff Lemire back in 2009, and I finally had an opportunity to read it. And it's really kind of an adaptation of the classic H.G. Wells Invisible Man story, in which a scientist character who they call Griffin shows up in a small fishing village somewhere in America, like a backwater town or whatever, and he just wants to be left alone. And he kind of strikes up this friendship with this kind of isolated young girl that's there, and she's very curious about why does he come around in bandages or whatever. And it's amazing how like you can take a story like The Invisible Man and all the things that happen in The Invisible Man, like the slow descent into madness that Griffin experiences because, again, he starts not being able to see himself. But you kind of marry that with like the small town mentality of like people being very, very suspicious of outsiders. And here this guy comes in with these bandages and wearing goggles, and everybody thinks he's like a serial killer or whatever. And actually, things just get worse for him just simply because he's different. And so it's kind of an exploration of just being the outsider in one of these communities. And Jeff Lemire really does, whether it's this particular book or I got a lot of shades of his work on Essex County in this particular one. So if you like Essex County, or even to a lesser extent Sweet Tooth, and you also like the classic monster movies, the 1940s or 50s, and you want kind of like a modern retelling of it, check out The Nobody by Jeff Lemire. And it's only 144 pages, so it doesn't take a lot of time to read it. But it's a good book. Really do like that.
Well, I was going to say, Jeff Lemire also just wrote the Firestorm book that dropped last month. And
Yeah.
that's real good too, where Firestorm's separated. Firestorm's a bad guy now, because, I don't know. It's good. It's Jeff Lemire.
All right, J.A., well, what do you have for us?
I am recommending that you pick up either book 1, book 2, book 3, or all 4 books out so far of ElfQuest, the original Quest. We reviewed ElfQuest, I think 2 years ago, and we were reviewing, I reviewed the color one because I read it online, and I think you guys did black and white because that was the easiest to come by in trade at the time. But now, the original color comics are out again. Dark Horse has been putting these out in beautifully restored 5-issue hardback runs. So the original Quest, Book 1, Fire and Flight, is issues 1 through 5. Book 2, Forbidden Grove, issues 6 through 10. Book 3, 11 through 15. Book 4, 16 through 20. Just incredible. Who doesn't love sexy Smurfs?
It's very true. It's very true. By the way, again, if you need more swords and sorcery from the last comic shop, make sure that you're going back and checking out some other episodes we've done in the past. We did Savage Sword of Conan on an episode of the last comic shop, and boy howdy. Also, one of our most downloaded episodes of 2025 was Warlord, and I continued reading Warlord well after the issues that we completed. He ends up having a baby, and the baby gets stolen, and it turns out that, like, the original girl was not a redhead. She was a brunette. Before the Russian chick shows up, she's a redhead. But the first girl was a brunette, and eventually they become best friends because the Russian girl ends up with Machiste.
Oh.
They end up going on a bunch of adventure double dates, the 4 of them.
I don't think that's how you pronounce his name. Just
He's got the mace hand. How would you pronounce it? Mace Chiste?
Dollar store He-Man guy. That's how you pronounce it.
Yes. We've got more He-Man and Masters of the Universe talk right after this commercial break. It is our movie review of the Masters of the Universe movie that is out on movie theater screens everywhere nowadays. So stay tuned for that.
When you're done listening to this podcast, check out mine. My name is Dave, and I'm the host of Beer in Front. My podcast is just enjoying the beer that's in front of you. Sometimes we forget about a classic beer while we focus on the new trendy thing. What I try to do each week is to enjoy an old school classic or have a beer that has potential to be a classic. I'll also talk about events of the day, I'll add my spin to things, and each week there are people that really annoy me, and I'll call them out as the jag-off of the week. That's Beer in Front, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
They're back! This October, get ready for more magic, mayhem, and sibling rivalry. Fantagraphics presents Santo Sisters Volume 2, collecting issues 6 through 10 of the Eisner award-winning comic book series. This deluxe hardcover is packed with a Technicolor chaos you crave. Don't miss out. Grab the sisters' latest adventures this October wherever great books are sold. Santo Sisters Volume 2, twice the magic, double the trouble.
Gas up your wind raider. It is now time for our movie review of a movie I've been looking forward to for some odd 35 years.
when did Dolphs come out?
It was 87.
1987.
All I know is I finally got an on-screen Orko in this movie instead of a Gwildor, and I was super excited. It is the Masters of the Universe movie, and we hope that you enjoy this review, starting off with the people involved with making this cinematic treat.
All right. Well, this was directed by Travis Knight on a screenplay by Chris Butler, Aaron Nee, Adam Nee, and David Callahan, based on a story by Aaron Nee, Adam Nee, Alex Litvik, and Michael Finch, which was then, of course, based on Mattel's Masters of the Universe toys. It stars Nicholas Galitzine as He-Man, Camila Mendes as Tila, Allison Brie playing Evelyn, James Purefoy as King Randor, Marina Baccarin as the sorceress. I haven't seen her in a couple years, I want to think. Maybe she was on TV for a while. Johannes Hauker Johansson, Kristen Wiig.
Hold on, you didn't say who that guy played. Come on.
Oh, he played Fisto.
A lot of blue humor around.
Yes, there's a lot. Ram Man, also giving people head all the time in the movie theater. He did not get a top line billing, unfortunately, but he was played by John Shu Jang. Idris Elba, sporting a delicious mustache.
Oh, yes.
As Man-at-Arms, and stealing every scene that he was on screen, even though you never see his face because it's just a skull. Jared Leto as Skeletor.
Yes. As we were walking out of the movie theater yesterday, Chad was like, I didn't like his voice. And I was just like, what? It was fine.
Skeletor should be less British and more evil.
We all can't be Alan Oppenheimer. Come on now. It's weird how, like, just Skeletor's played like the Joker most of the time. Like, even in, like, the Masters Universe Revelation show that was on Netflix, who did they get to play Skeletor in that? Mark Hamill. And what did he do? He just did Joker. And same thing here with Jared Leto, except this one was actually good. I like this one. I really did. In any case, the 10-cent synopsis comes from Chad. Were there masters of the universe?
Indeed. The film opens in the sweeping vistas of Eternia, a land of flaming deserts and cloud cities and dragons and griffins, and lo and behold, there's an attack, and Skeletor and his cronies are approaching Castle Grayskull and King Randor, but don't worry, Man-at-Arms has it all under control until he doesn't, and Skeletor wins. Dun dun dun! I already did the dun 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 a couple shows ago. I'll stop that. But anyway, and so a last-ditch play. The sorceress sends young Prince Adam away into a portal to Earth where his mother was born with the Sword of Power. But the hiccup is, while en route with said Sword of Power, Prince Adam loses his grip, both metaphorically and literally. And when he crash lands to Earth, there's no Sword of Power to be found. So Adam cannot return home. Instead, he grows up as an HR representative, trying to find his way, regaling everyone he meets with tales of his home world to much comedic effect. Until one day, as he's Googling, have you seen my sword? At work and getting grief from Sashir Zameda as his boss, someone sends him a message and says, I found your sword, give me $300 and it's yours. And so He-Man gets his sword, and when he holds it aloft, does he get the powers? No, but he does alert Beastman, who drops down from the sky and attacks the city. And Teela shows up to He-Man's defense. Then they end up back in Eternia, and the never-ending battle with Skeletor begins again. It takes 2 hours and 12 minutes. If you think about it too hard, you're doing things the wrong way. But it is just ridiculous fun from there, where occasionally it takes its action scenes seriously, and then sometimes it'll like slow things down and give you PlayStation 5 graphics, and then go back to being a real movie, and then sometimes it pauses for like internet meme jokes, like Jay was referring to or Andy was referring to at the top, where everyone's like, ha 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 ha. They're just standing and laughing, and Cringer pulls a Jim from The Office and looks at the camera and is like, what the hell's going on here? But yeah, it's filled with a hearty mix of action and humor and meta commentary and self-deprecation and a certain joy and a heart and an exploration of masculinity and what 10-year-olds think it means to be a man. It's all kinds of fun from there.
Yes, I think we might have a little bit of a sandwich here, because as you kind of realized, at least I hope you realized, Chad, when we left the movie, said he liked it. And so did I. Now, J.A. wasn't with us, so we're going to start with him first. Your favorite dude, Moss Man, did bite it? It turned into a pile of mulch? I'm sure you were throwing popcorn at the screen over that. What did you think of the rest of the movie?
It was fun. It needed some tightening up. The reason why I named all this writers who did the story and the screenplay, was just to show that there were so many of them. And I think at times it felt like it was 5 or 6 different movies all competing with each other, and certain things worked really well, other things didn't work quite so well. Everything just felt a little overly long. I think if they tightened up the stuff on Earth and not let that run so long and tightened up some of the other beats, you could have had a movie that came in 1 hour and 45 minutes, and it would have been... the humor works most of the time. The action scenes work most of the time. The CGI is good most of the time. It leaves you with a smile on your face. If you're of the age that played with or watched the He-Man cartoons or played with the original toys, you will get a lot of those references. And if you didn't grow up with that and you don't know those references, still an enjoyable movie. There's unpredictable moments. It's telling an age-old story, so I think that is a benefit to it. It's a young person finds their way, discovers what really makes them powerful. It has nothing to do with some sword or this or that.
It's inside you all along.
Yes.
But I think that kind of stuff needs to be in this movie. I will say that Masters of the Universe, it's a goofy IP. It's a really weird IP. As a huge fan of it for many, many years, I'm the first to say, like, there's a lot of competing ideas going on with the Masters of the Universe IP. It's barbarians, it's sorcery, it's high science fiction at times, it's alien worlds, it's weird creatures with...
Yeah, it's Conan meets Star Wars, essentially.
Yes, it really is. And it's also based on having a hero that has ultimate power. And kind of like any good story that you tell about Superman, if you're just coming to a movie just to watch Superman kick the shit out of somebody for an hour and a half, you're going to get bored really fast if that's all you're getting. Because again, how do you write for somebody that can do everything? How can you write for somebody that has the power to basically lift mountains? How are you supposed to build up any sort of credible threats? How are you supposed to build up any drama? And so what you do is you create like the fish out of water, which they did in this movie. You create the idea of at the end where he basically says, look, I have the power. I just don't have to use it all the time. I really got shades of James Gunn's Superman in watching this. I think it was another positive role model for masculinity, the correct way to utilize power, and be a good lesson for young kids. I definitely think this is a great movie to take kids to, as well as adults that know of this property. So I think everything they did worked.
As long as you don't have the kid asking you, why is everybody laughing at the fist and head jokes?
You just got to redirect him from there. No, I agree with so much of what Andy said. And understand, this is a property whose tagline is, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power. It's already pretty stupid from the outset. You have to embrace the stupid and have fun with it. And they do in this movie. They embrace the meme culture. They embrace the idea of, that guy's Ram Man because he rams stuff. You know? We haven't said the word camp yet. There's an overwhelming camp element to this movie, and the actors are hamming up and having fun throughout that. Just like in the Barbie movie, they're telling a tale that the modern elements are recognizing and acknowledging how silly everything is, but still telling a story that resonates. The relationships between fathers and sons and fathers and daughters, you know, whether it's Man-at-Arms and Tila or He-Man and King Randor or you know, those things are universal, you know, and they mix that in with a lot of different jokes, a lot of silly references. The music swells to a big compelling moment. And instead of a big compelling moment, you get like a one-off joke. And like, okay, it's fun.
Or the music swells and you're like, where's the Highlander? Is the Highlander coming?
This is of the universe.
Yes.
Duncan MacLeod out there.
I was looking for him. They have some Queen. Brian May provided guitars on a lot. He worked with the composer, and it has a very 80s aesthetic. The music is one of the highlights of the film. That and Jared Leto's Skeletor, I think, were scene stealers.
Well, that's the thing for me. As much as I love the movie, I'm not going to tell you that it's a perfect movie. There were things that were off about it. It is over long. 2 hours and 12 minutes is too much. But then again, as I watched the movie, I just had fun with all the different parts. I don't know what you would cut. Probably something in the second act. But I enjoyed all of it. From the beginnings of Adam just struggling to be a human and to the Beast Man. The whole scene with Beast Man I thought was really well done. They made Beast Man into a compelling villain. As they're running through the streets, that surprised me. Does it make sense that the police at a backed up traffic would get out of the car and leave someone they just arrested? Like, you hang out here as a favor to me. No. But just like a skeleton face being able to, make all the sounds and stuff, if you're looking for sense, you're in the wrong spot. I don't know. There was so much of it I loved, and then so much of it, like, I loved Alison Brie as Evil Lynn, but I'm like, it could have been just a little bit better.
She didn't get enough to do, I felt.
Yeah, like she was evil and wicked in that scene where she's fighting Tila. Like, that was badass. But I just wanted just a little more out of Evil Lynn. And Jared Leto's Skeletor, I thought he did a good job as Skeletor. But like I said, for me, it's too British about that voice.
What I wanted was more Skeletor in HR Land.
That was one of my favorite parts when he puts him into that dream sequence and he's at the gym and he's pumping iron and it's like Skeletor's face on this buff
in the hoodie
bro dude, and then he's in the office and he's at that stuff worked for me. There was a lot of stuff here as a longtime Masters of the Universe fan that I was really happy that they did. I've never been a huge fan of the idea of Prince Adam at all, honestly. Even though it's been around for years and years and years, I've always liked just He-Man just being He-Man. I thought Prince Adam for the first time and forever worked really well here. Why? First off, he didn't have a secret identity, which I always thought was dumb.
And the characters actively mocked that at one scene in the movie. Like, do you think he thinks we don't know?
I mean, he doesn't even wear glasses. I mean, come on. Like, he just looks the same. So I like that. But, going one step further with that, the reason that works is because Prince Adam raises the sword, he gets the power, but he just becomes who he's supposed to be. And that kind of goes hand in hand with this idea that it's not really the sword that has the power, it's he who has the power. He's just becoming the best version of himself. And to be honest, eventually, the difference between Prince Adam and He-Man will be negligible. They're the same person, which I love. I really love that. But I also really love they gave people the names of the characters because that was the name Prince Adam gave them when he was a kid and he didn't know any better. And I'm sure they have real names, but that's also awesome that they didn't bother to tell you what their names were. Because I didn't care. I just thought it was funny that's why he's called Ram Man, because he rams and he's a man and that's the way he works. And so I wanted more scenes where he was calling the bad guys that and their reactions. Like, I think we got a little of that with maybe Trapjaw at one hot second, but then, look, it's Trapjaw. I wanted him to be like, what the hell are you talking about?
My name's Carl.
The one thing that didn't work for me is not enough cameos. Boy, howdy. They didn't have Stratos, not enough Triclops for me. They didn't have Stinkor. Tons of characters.
There's the scene where everything's stinky.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Is Stinkor coming out? And then they just cut. I bet he was there and they cut it for length because...
There's got to be a director's cut because you could tell, like, with the Triclops scenes, they were setting him up for something that never materialized. And, like, there are some characters, like Battle Cat, you have to wait until the very end for Battle Cat to get the armor. Like, I wanted that stuff sooner.
Oh, yeah.
Merman, you see Merman in the background in one of the extra credit sequences. I want more Merman. He was a key player for me.
He was.
I didn't see any too bad. Like, I'm going to have to watch this movie 2 or 3 more times just to see what I missed.
But at the end, the folks that walk into Castle Grayskull for the big climactic battle, on one side you had Skeletor, Evil Lyn, Beastman. On the other side, you had He-Man, Teela, Battle Cat. And I was just like, yeah, kind of the heavy hitters there. Man-at-Arms is outside fighting Trapjaw, also heavy hitters. If there's going to be a rumble, the Jets and the Sharks, that's who you need.
And all the fights were great. I was a big fan. And I know if this were any other movie, I would be giving it so much grief about the terrible CGI in some of those moments. But I loved it. I don't know what it is. This movie gets a pass for me. We're no, okay. Sometimes He-Man looks like a regular person, like the actor, and sometimes He-Man just looks like a cartoon character. It's fine.
Yeah, I think they got the aesthetic right because all the fights, it's all bloodless. You had those moments where he's punching Skeletor and Skeletor's face is getting all contorted, just like in the cartoon. That's why I thought it was too much on Earth. Once we got to Eternia, it was much better. I thought the Earth section of the movie lasted a little too long. Though, that did give us a great cameo. Can't have a He-Man movie without Dolph Lundgren. Thank you very much.
Or What's Going On? Let's just say that. I'm sure there was a ton of people that were going crazy when that song started playing. What's going on, though, is we got to get to ratings. We've talked about a lot of Masters of the Universe over the past hour, and it's a rating scale out of J.A. Scott. Does he have the power to give us a great one? I believe he does. What is it for the movie, J.A.?
Well, we're going to go, this movie was very much sort of a tribute to the original He-Man action figures. So we're going to go 1 out of 4 action figures.
From Mattel.
Because there were so many of the different characters from the action figure line.
No, it was also cool when they went into that comic book shop where he found the sword originally. And there were some cameos of other Mattel action figure lines. I think there was Big Jim. Somebody was hiding behind a Big Jim character. And also, I don't know if anybody noticed, but the barbarian that was holding the power sword when he finds the power sword on Earth, that was actually what He-Man was supposed to originally look like. That was the original Mark Taylor's design for He-Man. So that was a cool throwback to that. But let's start with you, J.A. How many action figures are you giving it? Is it going to be a whole Battle Bones full of it, or what?
Oh, the Battle Bones. That's one of those toys that looks better in the store when it's full of guys, and then you get it home and you put your 4 guys in it, and you're like, oh, man, this doesn't do anything.
Battle Bones is the best. You can take 20 figures with you wherever you went on a giant skeleton dinosaur.
Yeah, but if you didn't have 20 figures, then it was just a giant piece of plastic that had empty spaces.
Giant skeleton dinosaur.
We are getting off topic here. I will say the funniest thing I ever saw about Battle Bones, there was a comic book in which they made Battle Bones talk. How is this working? I don't understand any of this. But yes, J.A., how many action figures are you giving this?
I'm going to give it 3.5.
From Mattel.
It was really a lot of fun. And it was a nice palate cleanser, I have to say. I the weekend before, I had watched The Mandalorian and Grogu and been so excited for a Star Wars movie and came out of that thinking, that was 2 hours. And this was fun. This is something I would recommend other people go see. This would be great as a double feature at a drive-in if they could get the rights to the original Dolph Lundgren one.
Oh, yeah.
Woo-hoo!
Oh, absolutely. That would be a lot of fun for sure. I would be lined up for that. I am going to give this movie 3.75.
From Mattel.
It's not quite a 4. There were a couple talky bits that I thought were on top of each other. They crash land in the jungle and He-Man and Teela are trying to have these moments. And it just seems like there's one talky bit after another talky bit, after a third talky bit. And I think that was a scripting thing where they're we have some exposition to get through in this jungle, which they probably could have done better. But this is me nitpicking. The saddest thing about this is I'm already seeing people that are saying oh, I really want to see this Masters of the Universe, but something's keeping me from going. Just go and see it. Even if you don't know anything about Masters of the Universe, you're going to have fun. It's a fun action flick. I think the director of this also made the Bumblebee movie. And to be blunt, the Bumblebee movie is probably my favorite Transformers movie because it's also kind of fun and tongue-in-cheek and kind of like goofy. And so like that's what this is. You're going to have fun going to see this. You're going to enjoy the action sequences. You might even tear up. And heck, if you don't go see it, then that post-credit scene where you saw She-Ra, yeah, that's right. I just spoiled it, kids. She-Ra, but outside the fright zone, ready to kick some ass on Hordak. You're never going to see that movie, folks. You don't go out till you get your bums in those seats. So go see Masters of the Universe. Give this movie some power. Chad?
Okay, so I want to take you back to 1987 when little Chad went to see the Dolph Lundgren He-Man and the Masters of the Universe movie. And I was so upset. That movie was not what I wanted. I didn't want Gwildor. Who the is Gwildor? It didn't make a lick of sense in a bad way. I was so distraught, and shortly thereafter, the whole He-Man franchise crumbled into bits. And like He-Man was so important to me. I was just showing the guys, we had to pause the show mid-taping. I'm like, look, this is me as a kid at the mall display. And this is me with my dad and all the toys set up around my room. I love this franchise. Let's fast forward. So like 1987 to now is what, 40 years? And I told Andy as this movie finished, I was like, the year's 2026. We don't have jetpacks like we were promised. Modern medicine is an absolute mess. The world is in shambles. But the future is bright because I finally have a kick-ass He-Man movie. Does this movie have flaws? It absolutely has. And its flaws are exposed like nerves or wires. And I could totally understand people seeing this and be like, what? Or be like, no, that part wasn't great. Or that part, like, why did they do this? I'd quit trying to make sense of it. I love this movie so much. So much. This movie was made for me. This movie was made for 1987 Chad that just wanted something fun and silly and something with heart. Were there dark moments? There were, but it was also balanced with action and the empathy and, you know, the He-Man. And I love the little screen grabs at the end over the credits, like villains monologue, heroes dialogue. And like the little notes like that, like I loved everything about this movie. So my rating is a totally biased 4 action figures.
From Mattel.
This movie's not for everybody, but it was for me. And so if you were a child of the 80s, if you were ever smashing your He-Man figures together, and I gotta keep supporting these movies until I get myself a Rio Blast. I need
Rio
a
Blast
Stinkor on film.
Rio Blast was the
Rio
worst.
Blast! I want to buzz off. There's so many wonderful designs that I've yet to see completed. I did love that Roboto though. By the time we got to the end,
Oh yeah,
we didn't talk enough about Roboto. That was lots of fun. It's a 4 for me. I loved it. It flaws and everything. I think it was wonderful. I hope as many people as possible go out and see it. Take your kids. I know my kiddo, he grew up on the He-Man cartoon from Netflix, and so I was able to convince him to go, and he really enjoyed it too.
I was disappointed that Fisto didn't get to fight Jitsu.
Yeah. Where's Jitsu, man? Come on. Right. Where's Whiplash?
What's
Web Store? Come on.
That's the end of the Last Comic Shop this week. Hopefully you go out to our website, www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com, rate, review, and subscribe so that you can check out some of our other movie reviews we've got coming up the rest of this summer. We've got 2 major ones coming up. We've got the Supergirl movie in early July, and then we've got
we're going to say King Hiss, the guy that looks like a guy, but he's just all snakes trying to sneak into the movie theater.
Spider-Man, brand new day in August. So make sure that you're rating over at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com so you don't miss any of this stuff.
What about Rock On? The guys that were just rocks.
I used to huck them. They got lost in the woods. I'd have to buy like an extra one because I didn't know where they were half the time. They were supposed to fly. They were supposed to fly.
How about Cyclone? No Cyclone with the
Cyclone
waist. Did he spin?
What about Module Lock? He can put his head on his butt. You can do whatever you want it.
All right.
So our heads aren't on our butts. So go to the website, lastcomicshoppodcast.com. Find links to all the other stuff. Support your local comic shops and go to the movies. Get some of this awesome He-Man merch. See if you can get yourself one of those power swords to slay your thirst and have a 4-foot-long sword.
That was a perfect toy. Oh my gosh. Perfect size, perfect weight, man. But
you put your drinks in there.
If you want other add-ons that have Lax Comic Shop stuff, where can they get that, J.A.?
They can head over to our merch store where we sell t-shirts, coffee mugs, tote bags, hats, shorts. We've got the summer sale on, so you can get the Last Comic Shop podcast t-shirt with palm trees and get it in a tank top, perfect for that beach weather. We don't sell a power harness, unfortunately, but maybe we should.
You can get the t-shirt in hot pink.
Get the hoodie and rip off the sleeves like Jim Rat Skeletor. Show those jacked arms.
And if you have need to put all of those awesome Masters of the Universe comic books in bags and boards and boxes, go out to bcwsupplies.com. Use the promo code LCSPOD to save yourself 10% on all that stuff. I don't know if they have bags the size of the mini comics. I wish they did. Like, I have a bunch of mini comics, and I still don't know how to protect those suckers. I still have a lot of my originals.
Like I do with my He-Man lunchbox from 1986.
I was the host with the most, Eddie Larson. I was joined by Jay Scott and Chad Smith. Until next week, stay safe, stay cringerings.
Get yourself some furry underpants. Is that at the shop?
We were totally robbed the Cringer to Battle Cat transformation that you got.
Yes! Oh my gosh, he was right there! Why else bring him into the room if you're not going to do that?
They ran out of money.
Was a 2026 Black Angus production.